This is the Radio Button Network. And this is the new Ace at Large podcast. Now, your host, Ace.
Well, somebody once told me that I am a master at what you would call compartmentalization, meaning I have the ability to keep things in boxes and not let bad news in one area affect what's happening in another area, or at least affect my performance in another area. That's true when it comes to projects and work-related things. What I don't have, and where I fail miserably, is the ability to compartmentalize my mind. That's not a great feature in life because my mind never stops worrying and my worries never end. Some would call that anxiety. I might not show it, but I project months, even years, a decade into the future and allow that stuff to stay with me, and quite honestly, allow that stuff to wake me up at night. And I allow it to silently bother me and keep me from being as present as I need to be, mostly in my personal life. Some of that comes from grief. Some of that comes from who I am. Either way, it's something that I try to work on a day-to-day basis. But here, when we are grieving or experiencing troubled times, whatever it might be, we will all have those days where it becomes too much. We will all have bad moments. The key today is discovering how we keep those moments from ruining a day, a week, or even a month. How do we compartmentalize the moments to keep them just that, bad moments? Two things. Number one, you're here. That means you're not alone. Number two, we'll try to find some solutions. Next.
There's more of the new Ace at Large podcast next. Welcome back to the new Ace at Large podcast.
So we all come here for different reasons. This whole thing started, the Ace at Large podcast in its current form started because I was dealing with, well, I still am dealing with the grief of my daughter's death. And just wondered what would happen for people, or how it works for people who don't have this incredible outpouring of love and support that I have. What do people do if they don't have the family that I have? What do people do if they don't have my now wife that I have, my son? What do they do if they don't have the support of their friends? And I am blessed to have different groups of friends who all stepped up and supported me in so many different ways. That's why we ended up creating this version of the Ace at Large podcast. You're grieving. I'm grieving. You're awash in guilt. You're struggling with anxiety. You're struggling not to drink. Whatever the case is, we're all in a similar situation, struggling, and it's hard. It's difficult. Trust me, I understand that. And that's why we're doing this. Remember, a couple of things. I don't claim to have any answers at all. I'm just sharing thoughts and ideas that come to me. Number two, I'm not a therapist, but I have been doing a lot of therapy, which gives me a little bit of insight, I think. But let me give you a scenario that happened to me, something that happened to me Sunday. Sunday morning was Valentine's Day. And I was downstairs. My mom is living with Amanda and me for a couple more weeks. It's going to be about a month total. Just giving my sister a break from taking care of her. My mom's 78. She's got Alzheimer's, and she was living with us. And I was downstairs while everybody else was getting ready upstairs. I ended up watching the very end of Draft Day, a Kevin Costner movie where he plays the general manager of the Cleveland Browns. It's a football movie. So what could possibly go wrong in watching a football movie? Well, a couple of things. At the end of the movie, there's a player who has his dream come true, and he is drafted by the Cleveland Browns, which is the team that his father played for. And he is asked, what's it like to have your dream come true? And that's all it took. And if you've experienced a great loss in life, or you've struggled with things like anxiety, or you're struggling with guilt over something you've experienced in life, you know, quite often it doesn't take anything related to what you're experiencing or struggling with to set you off, so to speak. Just hearing a guy who was around the age of my daughter being asked in a movie, it's a movie about a football player, but being asked about his dream coming true and his relationship with his father. Suddenly I realized it's Valentine's Day. Not that I didn't know. I had gotten my mother a card and flowers. I'd gotten Amanda flowers. I'd gotten her a card. I knew it was Valentine's Day. But you know how it works. If you're listening to the Ace at Large podcast right now or watching this on YouTube, you know that's all it takes. And it's a series of dominoes. Bang, 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 bang. And suddenly it occurred to me, this is the first Valentine's Day that I won't give my daughter a card, hug her, tell her that I love her, and appreciate her. I can't. I can't give her candy. I can't give her a card. I can't do the things that I've done in 20 years because she's dead. She's not here. She will never be here again for Valentine's Day. I anticipated the first Thanksgiving. I anticipated the first Christmas. I anticipated New Year's Eve, and I anticipated 6 months from her death. We're now coming up upon 7 months. I anticipated those things. I didn't anticipate Valentine's Day, especially not when I'm watching a show about a football team and the NFL draft, but that's how it works. I'm watching a stupid movie about a son experiencing his biggest dream in life coming true. And that was enough for me to realize that my daughter's dreams will never come true. And I won't be able to see them come true. And so I'm sitting there alone on the couch downstairs in my house, fighting back tears. And about that time, Amanda came down and she was saying something and she asked me, am I ready to go or whatever? We're going to eat. And I said, yeah. She said, what's wrong? And I said, nothing. She said, no, what's happened? What's wrong? She could see that something was wrong. I was trying to hide the fact that I was having a little bit of an emotional moment. And eventually, within seconds, when she came and sat next to me, I just fell apart. And I mean, fell apart. Crying my eyes out. Crying as hard as I've ever cried over anything else in my life, as hard as I've cried every other time that something like this happens. And it lasted minutes, several minutes of me just unable to get myself together because I wasn't expecting it. I knew I would be sad at moments on Christmas Day. I knew I would be sad at moments on Thanksgiving Day. Those things, I knew the 6-month anniversary, so to speak, of my daughter's death would be hard. But then here I was not expecting this one. It kind of came out of nowhere. I wasn't able to compartmentalize things. This one got away from me. And I cried and cried and cried and cried and cried at her loss, at the things I will never experience with her. And God bless her, Amanda just sat with me and I just cried my eyes out. And I do the same thing every time. I said, I'm sorry. She hates for me to say that I'm sorry because she understands the need that I have to just get this out. And then what? Then I got on with my day. There were others to think of, including Amanda. And that's the key. It's almost as if you then become able to compartmentalize your emotions. To me, at least, that's the key, because I didn't let the bad moment become a bad day. A bad 5 minutes can't become a bad hour, a bad 2 hours, a bad 5 hours, the rest of the day being bad. That's the worst thing that could happen, because then you're allowing the sadness, the grief, the anxiety, whatever it might be, to totally overtake you. And I get it. I know. I understand. Sometimes these things just happen. Sometimes they happen and you need a little bit longer to get through it. But at some point, we all have to move forward. And that's the key. We're not moving on. Remember, we're not moving on. We've talked about that. We're moving forward. So I sat down and thought about, okay, let's retrace what happened. Let's figure out how to deal with this better. And I came up with a few things. So again, I think this works no matter what your situation is, no matter whether you're dealing with a loss or some type of grief, no matter whether you're struggling with anxiety or depression, which is a trickier one, but here's some tips for dealing with these moments, as I call them, when they happen. Number one, accept it and just go with it. A lot of it depends on where you are and your environment at the time. But at least I find that accepting this is a moment and working through it by allowing it to happen is very important, because if you try to put it off, it never leaves your mind. You can't decide, I'll deal with this moment in an hour, in 2 hours, in 3 hours. Now, again, it depends where you are. I think I've told you before, I was walking down the hallway here one day, and there are other radio stations here in this building, obviously, from which we work. And one of the other radio stations was playing Drops of Jupiter by Train, which is a song that I have just kind of gravitated to. It makes me think of my daughter for no particular reason, or the lyrical content, yes, but that's kind of the reason that I've thought about it, some of the things that it mentions in the song. And I don't really know why that wasn't a song that we shared. After all, I wrote a song for her, but Drops of Jupiter by Train is a song that I've listened to think about my daughter. And it was playing as I walked down the hallway. And I just, quite honestly, checked my watch to see how much time I had during the commercial break, stepped into another room here in the building, and just had 2 minutes by myself just to kind of cry a moment and pull myself together. I was good after that. If I hadn't, I know I would have come in here and been sitting back here thinking about that, trying to hold back my emotions, trying to fight with my emotions, trying to keep myself from experiencing this moment, experiencing this sadness, and that would have made it 10 times worse. It would have made my performance on the radio 10 times worse. It would have made the moment 10 times worse later on when I could deal with it. And I'll be honest, there are many times, I say many times, there are times that I'm on my way to work and the grief, I just cry. Less and less these days, but every now and then it just occurs to me that I miss her every day. And I'll be driving into work and I realize I'll never see her again. I won't see her today. Won't see her tonight. Can't call her. There are times that I pick up my phone still to call her and I realize, damn it, I can't do that. And I've pulled into this building on mornings and been in tears and to sit outside of the parking lot crying, just pulling myself together. So whenever these moments come, I think you've got to accept it and just go with it. Number 2, don't feel guilty. Don't feel guilty. I've been reading a book called Grieving for Dads. It's excellent. But one of the things in a lot of the grief books and things that I've looked at talk about, don't feel guilty about the fact that you're sad. And don't be sorry that you're sad. I learned that from Amanda telling me, I always apologize when I break down and cry and around her. Just she comes to hug me and I say, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Because I don't want to be a burden on people. I don't want to make other people sad because I know it affects the room, so to speak. I know it affects the other person's emotions. I know it affects my son if it happens around him, that kind of thing. And I don't want that. But you can't feel guilty about it because it's a natural, honest human emotion. And you only have this emotion because you love someone or you care about people or this anxiety becomes too much. And you can't be sorry about it because this is just how we deal with things. And number 4, easier said than done, exhale. That's it. The moment's over. I'm done with that for now. Will there be another one? Probably. But that moment has come to an end. And you make the conscious effort to not let that moment control you. It's sitting in the parking lot crying, and then there's a moment that comes like, okay, now I'm going to be fine. Pull it together. Here we go. So when you have these moments, whatever you're experiencing, and again, it doesn't work for everything, but it works for most everything. You got to accept it and just go with the moment. Allow yourself to get this out of your body. Don't feel guilty. Don't be sorry. And at the end, just exhale as if to push everything out that you have inside. Because after you exhale, there comes a choice. A choice that we all have to make. That choice and that decision and how we handle that is very, 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 very important. Next.
There's more of the new Ace at Large podcast next. Welcome back to the new Ace at Large podcast.
So you're having a moment from whatever it is that you're dealing with in life. A moment when you feel overwhelmed. Perhaps you need to cry. Perhaps you're angry. Perhaps you just need to sit and try to pull your head together for a moment. That's fine. Accept it and go with it. Don't feel guilty about it. Don't be sorry for having that moment. Then exhale. And just be aware, that's over. Then comes the choice. And the choice is, do I move forward? The answer is always going to be yes. But it is a conscious choice. You get it out of your system and you move forward. I'm talking specifically about dealing with grief for me, but it works for everything. Whether you're tempted by alcohol or drugs, you decide not to do it. That moment's over. I got to keep moving forward. How do I move forward? How do I make my life better? If you're dealing with guilt, anxiety, there comes a time when you've got to make a conscious decision every time. And to me, that's key. The choice to move forward. I know someone in my life very close to me who deals with a lot of physical issues. And he chooses not to try to make the effort to make his life better. And I have tried, and I have tried to be an example, and I have offered assistance, and I have offered help, not by saying, "Hey, you're wallowing in your physical issues." He's never going to be fully healthy, but getting outside would be a huge benefit to him. Making an effort to start exercising and eating right would be a huge benefit for him with his physical issues. It's not going to heal anything, but it's going to help his body begin to feel better. But his choice is to not do it. His choice is to tell me how bad he feels. His choice is to always talk about how bad things are. And I think it impacts everything because he tends to have kind of a negative look toward life in general that he didn't always have. So we've talked about it before. That's key. The choice to move forward, no matter the situation, no matter what happens, ultimately, you have to choose to move forward. You accept the moment. Don't feel guilty about it. Don't feel sorry. Don't be sorry that you're experiencing it. Then exhale and choose to move forward. Because ultimately, all of these things, all of these decisions are up to us. No one else. It's up to me to handle the grief of my daughter's death. And it's up to me to be a good example for other people of how to handle the grief of whatever it is that they're going through and they're experiencing. It's up to me to find a way to handle the anxiety that I feel on a daily basis. It's up to me to do a better job of handling these things that worry me and cause my anxiety, because waking up at 11:30 at night or 1:10 in the morning or 12:45 and being wide awake worrying about these things is not helping me in any way. It's not good for my health. It's not good for my mental well-being. It's not good for my relationships. It's not good for any single thing in my life. Now, as of yet, I'm not doing a very good job with that. Working on it, trying to figure it out. But that's an area in which I failed and am failing. But I'm choosing to move forward. I'm choosing to try to find a solution. It's up to us and no one else, and we can't let whatever moment we are having prevent us from making a move in a positive direction each day. It's going to take time. It's not a quick thing. None of this is a quick fix. I have no quick fix for the things that wake me up at 1:10 and 12:45 and 11:30 at night. And trust me, it sucks falling asleep at 8:45 because you wake up at 3 o'clock, 3:15 in the morning, and then waking up at 11:45 and thinking, it must be 2. No, it's 11:45. and you're wide awake. You got to make this choice for ourselves, but mainly for the person for whom you are grieving, if grief is your issue. Think about that for a minute. My daughter would be so distraught to know that if I had just given up on life, if I just decided, I don't really care, I'm just going to lay around. Because that's not who I was when she was alive. If her brother had become a totally different person and just stayed inside and thought it was terrible and that thing, she would be so upset with him and so disappointed in him. The people around you that love and care and try to support you, you got to do it for them. Because those people also deserve your best effort. And finally, when we all realize we can be a great example to others. To be an example to others makes us better for ourselves. If it's genuine and true, if you really are a great example to others, you are bettering yourself. And that's, to me, that's huge. Knowing that I can help other people in the process of helping myself. I'll be better because I'm giving off a better example. That's wonderful. So the key is, don't let a bad moment become a bad minute, hour, half a day, week. You know, I know a guy who hasn't had a drink of alcohol since 1989. No alcohol, no drugs. Real positive person. And I asked him one day, do you think you could have a sip of wine? And he said, maybe, but maybe not. And he's not going to open that door and take that chance. He's not going to allow, because his belief is he's not sure. But a sip might lead to a glass, might lead to a bottle, might lead to, let's get some Coke. That's kind of the same philosophy. When your bad moment comes, when a moment is over, let's be done with it. You know, he was done with drugs and alcohol in 1989. These moments are going to come. It's a different deal, obviously, but be done with the moment. Don't let it seep into the next hour, the next afternoon, the next night, the next day, because there are going to be plenty more of them coming when you're dealing with grief and anxiety and depression and things like that. Take them one at a time. Take them head on. Don't shy away from it. Accept it. Don't feel guilty. Don't be sorry. Exhale. Choose to move forward. And making ourselves better makes us a better example for others. Because remember, we talk about this every week, one day you will tell your story of how you've overcome what you're going through now, and it will become someone else's survival guide. And is there anything better we could do in life than take our experiences and help someone else who will be experiencing the pain and the tragedy and the temptation and the struggle that we are experiencing right now? Is there anything better that we could do than to show someone else who experiences those feelings how to get through it, how to be better, how to save themselves? I think that's the best thing that we could do, because that's leaving the world a better place than you found it. If you got any questions, thoughts, comments, I would love to hear from you. It's at Ace at Large on Twitter, on Instagram, on Snapchat, on Facebook. It's under David Ace Cannon. I would love to hear from you. I love the stories that people to share with me, and we're thinking about doing an Ask Anything type scenario over the course of the next couple of weeks. So if you have any questions or thoughts, if you think it's a good idea, bad idea, hit me up. Share your experiences, because like I said, I don't have all the answers. I don't maybe have any answers. I'm just a guy trying to navigate through a very difficult situation and share as much as I possibly can. We'll see you next week.
This is the new Ace at Large podcast. The new Ace at Large podcast will be back next Thursday.